Okay, we are recording. So, Tracy, tell us a little bit about your childhood before we dive straight into your military experience. Where were you born and raised? You said you were from Wisconsin the last time we met.
Mhm. Yeah, yep. I was born and raised in a little tiny town called Amory, Wisconsin, in north central Wisconsin, and about 2,000 people in my hometown. So I only had 150 people in my graduating class. So everybody knew everybody. My We were fourth generation of dairy farmers on the same farm. So it was a really small community. Everybody knew everybody, and I had uncles and some other relatives that had served, but that had been drafted during Korea and that. But really, I didn't know anybody in my immediate family that had served. I had a cousin. My cousin Kim is a few years older than me, and she had joined the Army. And so, that was neat when she'd come home on leave and we got to talking and stuff. And I had a friend in high school who was a couple of years ahead of me who joined the Marines. And I just remember her coming back and walking the halls and, in her uniform, and she just looked so sharp. And I was like, wow, that must be so cool. And so I started talking to recruiters when I was a freshman, and went as far as taking the entrance exam and going down and taking my physical and everything my senior year. And I was ready to go in right out of high school, but then I got a scholarship, got the opportunity and I had good grades. So got into college, and I spent the next 5 years in River Falls, Wisconsin, about an hour away, and changed my majors a bunch of times, everything from ag education to pre-law, and I ended up graduating with a bachelor's in sociology. And then I worked at the college in the admissions office for a couple of years, and then the Army came up again, and I was like, okay, you know what? Chance to travel.
Go for it.
GI Bill, put some money away. Then I can go to law school. I could do anything for 3 years. Okay, sign me up. So that's how I ended up leaving for basic training on September 27th, 1987, and ended up in Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I got there, I was 25 years old. I was married. I had a college degree. I was not your typical private. And so that was actually my first leadership position. Some basic training. I remember the first night we were in the barracks, drill sergeant called me and 4 other soldiers in and said, okay, you're my leadership team, and you're this, and you're this, and you're this. And I ended up being second in command, if you will, of our platoon, just because I had a college degree and I was older, and he thought I was mature and could handle a bunch of 18-year-olds. So that was fun.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Wow, that's very interesting. Where was the most interesting place that you got to see and travel to, different countries?
Oh gosh. I was stationed in Germany from 92 to 2000. And it was so cool because when we'd have a long weekend, a 3-day or a 4-day weekend, where here you might say, oh, I got a long weekend. Let's go to Orlando. Let's go to Disney. Let's go to Epcot. Let's go to Universal or do something, or go to Daytona and go to the beach. Mm-hmm. On a 3-day weekend, I would get my car and drive 3 hours, and I could be in Austria or Switzerland or Spain or France. And I got traveled a lot, and it was so neat. It was such an awesome opportunity. My son was only 2 when we moved over there, and he learned to ski in the Alps.
Wow.
It was pretty cool. So it was. I saw some really amazing things. My last summer there, before I came back to the States, my unit took in the Army, we call them a staff ride. So we went to Normandy, and we went to Omaha Beach Memorial Day weekend. And we each had, we were traveling in big motor coaches, and we all had briefing materials. And so we were researching the battle and what we were, we were assigned individuals, actual soldiers from our unit from the time. And so it was really cool. We had to research it, but then we actually got to go and walk on Omaha Beach and walk up the beachhead and stand inside pillboxes and look out over the ocean and just imagining what it could have been like on D-Day. It was amazing.
Yeah, that must have been. Yeah, my family and I, we went to Normandy actually. So
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah.
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 So did you were you in the Gulf War, or did you like travel anywhere like in the Middle East, anywhere where there was any conflict or anything like that, occurring?
Well, when I enlisted in 1987, we were still in the middle of the Cold War. I mean, the Berlin Wall didn't fall until November of '89.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a different army back then. I didn't wear a battle dress uniform and boots to work. I wore a skirt and heels,
Yeah.
and that was that. But it was a different environment. We were still training. We still went to the field, but it was different. And so my job primarily, I was stationed at Fort Meade, Maryland, when the first Gulf War kicked off. And my job as a paralegal was to do wills and powers of attorney and assure the legal readiness of the soldiers who were deploying.
Mm-hmm.
And so I processed thousands. I wish I knew over my 17 years how many soldiers I processed, because I notarized documents. I did powers of attorney to make sure that their legal affairs were all in order. I made sure that they had wills. I made sure that their families were taken care of. And that, knowing that I was giving someone the peace of mind of knowing that just that one little piece of their life was in order, so I didn't get the opportunity to deploy. I went through all the training. I was ready to go. It never happened. But I was involved in my own way.
Yeah,
Helping others ready to go.
definitely. It sounds like you definitely made a big difference in, other people's lives in the military. Because I mean, some of those people, they're right fresh out of high school. I mean, they don't have anywhere to go.
Exactly.
And the militaries, I mean, some of them, they come from, just rough homes, rough environments, and the military is kind of their best option. And it might
Exactly.
be tough for them because, I mean, you got to keep in mind it's a bunch of like, guys together, and, they're all going out to, be trained to fight a war in case. But, they always need somebody who's, nurturing and understands them, and, it just is there for them. So,
Yeah. So, I mean, it was, and even when we weren't preparing soldiers for deployment, working in the legal office, and I worked there are a lot of different divisions in an Army legal office. There's legal assistance, there's claims, there's criminal justice, administrative law, and and I got to work virtually all of those. I was a lawyer's trial counsel's assistant and helped prosecutors try court-martial cases. And, and then there was legal assistance is got to be a little boring sometimes when it's the same thing over and over, and it's, somebody needs this document notarized, but then there are the times that you've got, a couple coming in and they're trying to adopt a child from a family member who can't take care of their child for whatever reason, and helping prepare the documents for that. And it was and just pointing soldiers in the right direction, because you got to think about it. Most soldiers don't get stationed where they grew up. It's a different part of the country. It might be a different part of the world. And when I was stationed in Germany, it was definitely a challenge, because that was back before the internet. We had to rely on snail mail and books, and it was you really had to dig for information. And I loved being a resource for soldiers and their families.
Yeah. That's perfect. That must have been a very honorable thing, very touching thing for a lot of emotions there. It sounds like, just helping them out. So what made you decide to go to college? You said it was the scholarship that you got?
Well, right out of high school, the first time I went to college.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And so I graduated from high school in 1980. So, a little history lesson. The Iranian hostage situation happened my senior year. And I was all locked in. I wanted to be a linguist. I was going to Defense Language Institute in Monterey, California for 9 months. And I was, gonna become a linguist. And I imagined myself working in an embassy somewhere. That's what I imagined I was gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then things started heating up, and with the Iranian hostages, and suddenly my recruiter said, "How'd you like to learn Russian?" And I was thinking more like French or German, or something like that. It's like, yeah, I think we're going to need some Russian linguists. And I went, let me think about this college thing again. And so, the opportunity was there, and I thought, well, I'm going to let it cool down a little bit. So I went to college.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a great experience, and I got to do all kinds of cool stuff in college the first time around. So that's how I ended up at River Falls.
That's the River Falls. That's the college you went to?
Yeah, it's part of the University of Wisconsin system.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So,
what made you? What did you do while you were in the military exactly? Did you do anything special besides handling documents? Did you travel and help with some of the officers, help out with their documents, or was it just the enlisted people?
oh no, it was everybody. I mean,
Oh, so it
it
was
was,
everybody.
yeah, no, I mean, officers need to be prepared for deployment too, and officers unfortunately get court-martialed sometimes too. So yeah, I mean, I went to the field with my unit. The Judge Advocate General's Corps, the JAG Corps, it's a really small military occupational specialty. And so there's, say unless you're in a headquarters company, you might have, say, when I was in, maybe there'd be 15 officers who were lawyers. And they were anywhere from lieutenants to the colonel who was in charge. And then you have 20 enlisted soldiers. Or you might be assigned to a brigade, like when I first got to Germany, and I was in a 600 man brigade, and I was in the headquarters unit, and I was the only one assigned to the brigade. And so I had to go, I went to another post about 10 miles away for my administrative support, because we couldn't email each other and we couldn't Skype and, you know, stuff like that. So, yeah, I went, my military occupational specialty was 27 Delta. I was a paralegal specialist. But I also served in various leadership roles while I was for 2 years at Fort Meade. I was an instructor at a leadership development program for junior enlisted soldiers, and so I trained soldiers in tasks like land navigation and physical training and drill and ceremony, teaching them how to march, teaching them how to be non-commissioned officers. Did that. I was also a first sergeant of a detachment in Germany.
Oh,
and
wow.
My detachment had 80 soldiers, and we were the headquarters detachment. So I had, it was kind of fun. I had the battalion commander and the battalion sergeant major that had to answer to me when it came to PT tests and stuff like that. That was kind of fun. And military police and just, sorry, I'm trying to civilianize this and not slide back into Army speak. But that was awesome, being a first sergeant. And that was something that didn't happen very often for paralegals back then.
Would you say you made like a lot of people after the war, they make like lifelong lasting like friendships? Did you know, make any friends that like you still keep in touch with today? You did?
Absolutely.
Like a bunch of
Absolutely.
people or just one person?
Oh no, several. As a matter of fact, we my husband and I joke with my buddy. She was my warrant officer in Germany, and she and her husband just retired from Fort Gordon. They live up in Augusta, and we joke that there are our evacuation headquarters, because we've actually, in the 8 years that we've lived here, when we've had to evacuate the area for storms, we've gone to Augusta both times to go and hang out with them and, you know, spend a week or so with them. Yeah, I've got a lot of people, and it's fun because every once in a while somebody will pop up on Facebook. You know, I'll find somebody, or we've got alumni groups and stuff like that. And so I've got some people that I keep up with. I had, this was funny, actually just a few months ago, I got a Facebook message from a soldier that was under me in Germany. And I was constantly on this guy. You know, he was a good soldier, but he was older. He was really smart, but he was so smart that he was always, you know, he didn't just do what he was told. He always wanted to know, well, why are we doing that? Yeah, it just used to frustrate the heck out of me. And I know I wrote him really hard. And it was so funny because he reached out to me and he sent me a picture that I had taken of him throwing a grenade. We were on a grenade course. And he said, "I will never forget this day. And you yelling at me." And but I look back now and I know you were just looking out for me, you know. And so we've reconnected. And it's you know, it doesn't happen all the time, but the few times it has, it's really made an impact.
Yeah, everybody kind of in the end, I've noticed veterans, they tend to reconnect, whether they didn't like each other, during their military experience, they tend to reconnect because they went through an event together. They stuck together.
Yeah.
Was the training that you had to go through, was that like, I know I'm aware of like police training, they have to get pepper sprayed.
Mhm.
Was Is there anything like severe like that in that you had to go through, or do enlisted guys go through that kind of stuff?
Absolutely. I went through it every year.
Pepper sprayed?
We went to, not pepper spray, it was CS, right, controlled gas, where we had to go, we'd go into the gas chamber once a year. You do training in your MOP gear, mission oriented protective posture. So you've got your mask and all of your outer garments, and you have to learn how to, tape your gloves, and to make sure that nothing gets in, that you've got a good seal on your mask. And the thing with going to the gas chamber every year, it's just so that you learn to have confidence in your equipment and confidence in your training. We'd take a physical readiness test twice a year. We'd go to the range and qualify with our rifles twice a year. And yeah, training was all the same stuff. A soldier is a soldier is a soldier.
Hmm.
So, I mean, when I went through basic, it was my I was in an all-female unit. The only time we ever saw males, the whole 8 weeks I was in basic training, was at chapel. I mean, literally, we didn't see any males at all. And so that was it. We did the same training, we just did it separately.
Hmm. No,
So
yeah.
yeah, road marching and running in formation and all that. We do all the same stuff.
I understand. Sounds very similar to police training. That kind of what they do to a certain
Yeah.
extent. So moving forward, what brought you to FLETC, and then like after you were done with your service, did you go back to Wisconsin?
No, actually, I was stationed at Fort Riley, Kansas, and I was injured in 2002, and I ended up being medically discharged in 2004 with 17 years of service. And so I stayed. Um, I stayed in Kansas, and I had a bed and breakfast in a small town in Kansas. And so I did that for a few years, loved that. And I worked in the private sector. Um, and then in 2009, I went back into federal service in Washington, D.C. at Walter Reed Army Medical Center, um, which was just an incredible place to work. Um, and our commanding general at the hospital, he made sure that every single staff person, civilian or military, that everybody that worked on that campus knew that what you do matters, and we make soldiers whole, and we send wounded warriors back to their units, or we send them back home, and we do our best to get them whole again. And it didn't matter that I was the office administrator in one of the IT departments. I felt like I was part of it, because if I wasn't making sure that everybody got their required training so that they could access the internet securely, if I didn't do that, somebody couldn't write home to their loved ones. So it was a really incredible place to serve.
So FLETC reached out to you, or did you reach out to them?
Well, so we were living in Washington. My husband and I both worked at Walter Reed, and then my husband got an opportunity to join the FLETC staff down here in the um, audiovisual um, department. And so we came down here and checked it out, drove down one weekend, and I fell in love with it. And he got the job, and that was 8 years ago. We moved down here. But I had left my job at Walter Reed, and I didn't really have anything lined up here. And so I said, you know, because I was doing some research online, and I found CCGA when I was clicking around, checking out Brunswick virtually. And I saw CCGA had a culinary program. And I was like, wow. Because my mom was an incredible cook and had a restaurant. She was a huge influence in my life. And I'd always wanted to go to culinary school. And I said, you know what? I've got this GI Bill that I never used because I never went to law school.
Mm-hmm.
I've never used it. I'm going to go to culinary school. So I did. So I started in 2013. Yeah, summer of 13, I think. Or maybe it was 14. I started the culinary program, and I was like, oh, wow, this is going to be really weird because I'm going to be that non-traditional student. Because when I went to college the first time, if you had a vet in your class or a 50-year-old woman, it was like, wow, that was really weird. You know, and so I didn't know what I was walking into, and I thought, this is just, I remember walking into class the first day going, what is this going to be like? And it was so cool, Grant. I have friends from culinary school and from when I was getting my business degree at CCGA. It doesn't matter that they're half my age. You know, I was their friend. I was a big sister. I was a mom when they were, 6 hours away from home. And as a matter of fact, today I was just texting with one of my girlfriends from the culinary program. She's still here in town, and we keep in touch. And so it wasn't weird at all. I was expecting it to be kind of uncomfortable and to feel out of place, and it wasn't like that at all.
Coastal is a very non-judgmental place. It's a great school overall. It really is.
It really is. And the culinary lab is down at the Camden Center, and so we all had a carpool together. So we all spent a lot of time in the car together and got to know each other on a whole different level. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And to top it all off, I mean, it's right near the beach. I mean, you can't beat that. College on the beach.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, and then and it's funny. I was looking for a part-time job, and I put in an application for a student assistant in the president's office. And I got selected for an interview, and so that's how I started out working at CCGA. I worked for Dr. Aloya, and it was great. And then I applied and got hired full time, and so I was working full time and going to school full time, yeah, very convenient. We just have to walk over to the next building to go to class. And
oh yeah,
I'm going to take my lunch today from 2 to 3 so I can go to class.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was great. Dr. Aloya he was really, really good to me. He asked me to be on the Veterans Advisory Council,
Mm-hmm.
and I worked a lot with, did a lot of work with Kimberly Burgess. We got to go up to the Capitol for a CCGA and veteran student day. Sorry, I should have wrote that down, what it was actually called. But we got to go to the Capitol and sit in the gallery and represent the college, and it was really neat.
That's good. I'm glad that you like it. Yeah, I've had a very good experience myself at Coastal. So one more final question, and this is an
Sure.
important thing for anyone watching and listening and interested in joining the military. What would you say if somebody is thinking about if it's the right thing for them to do or not? Like if it's for them or not? Because it's a commitment. It's not like you're working at a restaurant around the corner. Oh, you can just quit anytime. No, I mean you're in. You sign that paperwork, you're in.
Um, when I was in the Army, I used to say that I'd make a really lousy recruiter, because I would be the first one to tell a young person that came in and wanted to know, well, should I join? I'd have a hard time doing the hard sell, because
Hmm.
I will say this, I would tell anyone this: everybody can learn something. Everyone can benefit from serving, even if it's for just 3 and out or 4 and out. Or if you decide, like I did, thought I was going in for 3 and out, get my GI Bill and go, and I got in and I was like, wow, I'm good at this and I like this, and I made a career of it. And I don't believe that a military career is for everybody, but I do believe that everybody can get something out of it. I mean, when I look back at the lessons that I learned, um, the most exhausted I've ever been, the dirtiest I've ever been, the most overwhelmed I ever thought I could be. Um, Learning to confront and face fears, like my fear of heights, and so I volunteered to be on our unit's rappelling team, because I was like, well, I know how to do it. I know how to do it safely. This is going to help me get over my fear. What I'm saying is, if I can do it, anybody can do it. If you show up in the right uniform with the right attitude at the right time, you will succeed. Um, Best decision of my life.
That's changing my perspective of it. Wow, that's well spoken words right there. That really is. Alrighty, I think that'll be it. Go ahead and pause this. Thank you, Tracy.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Grant.